Assalamu alaikum, dear students. These days, as you know, we are talking about writer's style. And in our last class, we tried to define this style and we discussed do's and don'ts of style. As you know, style is the appropriacy and suitability of your language. When we say language, it means, writers' word choices. Styles actually guides us what words to be used and what not. And we try to define it that according to Swift, style is what? Proper words in proper places. And thinking out into language or having something to say and saying it as clearly as possible. And then we discussed, guidelines for conveying a good message that delete needless words and then use more verbs and less adjectives, and beware of your special words. And then we talked about there is no need to overstate and use signposting more and more, which can be visual or verbal. So these were the 5 principles to follow as do's of style. And then we started talking about the don'ts of, style. I mean, the pitfalls of style. And there we discussed most important pitfall, which writers have to be very careful about, is the colloquialism. When we start writing the way we read, our word choices, I mean, colloquial or spoken word choices, when they creep into our written word choices, or our spoken structures, become part of our written structure. And there, of course, writers make mistakes and they make their writing, frankly speaking, not the way it, should be. And then we talked about, circumlocution. And I told you circumlocution is what? This is, loose expression, or, too much for too little, wasting your words for very small idea, not having proper word for proper situation or proper place. Or you can also take it this way, that using too many words when a few can do. Or you can say those writers who do not have word substitutions, I mean one word substitutions, of course they usually become victim of this circumlocution. Circumlocution, who uses? Of course, as I said before, that politicians and government officials, they try to use it. Why they use it? To be, of course, on a safer side, to have more than one interpretations in future if they need. Anyhow, I mean, an honest writer, of course, a just writer is the one who, of course, does not use colloquialism in his writing, does not use, circumlocution in his writing. His writing is very compact, and he does not waste his words. He has, very careful, very, very eclectic, selection of, words. And they are power words, they are active words, and they are not handicapped. They can stand alone, and they can convey with the ideas without the help of any extra, words to go with them. Now, let's move towards our third pitfall, which is ambiguity. Now, ambiguity actually means doubles, you can say double speak. When I say double speak, it means words in your sentence which can convey 2 opposite meanings or more than one meaning. As you know, that whatever word we use, whatever structure we use, it should convey, of course, one meaning. I mean, meanings in my mind should be the meanings in your mind. When there will be ambiguity in our sentences, in our words, what's going to happen? Maybe the meanings in my mind are not the meanings in your mind. And of course, they will not, communication, of course, will not happen. So make sure the words which you choose, make sure the structures, which you choose, they should facilitate your readers in finding out the meanings, not confusing them. Now, this ambiguity can be of different types. 2 major types are semantic ambiguity and syntactical ambiguity. Now, semantic ambiguity means you are using such words where meanings are the problem. I mean, such words you're using which can have more than one meaning, number one. Syntactical ambiguity means you have structured your sentence in such a way that is creating a confusion. So keep in mind, I'll show you, of course, examples, and then I'll refer back again to the same syntactical and semantic ambiguity. Semantic ambiguity mean where meaning's the problem. Syntactical ambiguity where structure is the problem. Now, if I give you a sentence, which, if you remember in the last part of my previous lecture I gave, when she put the pitcher on the glass top table, it broke. Now, in this sentence, we find that it is one word which can, go back to glass top table also, which can go back to, the pitcher as well. So it is creating an ambiguity that it's not clear actually what broke, right? So this is actually semantic ambiguity, that it can go to pitcher also, it can go to glass top table also. So what we do actually at the place of it, we can concretely, mention that very thing, which broke. Like when she put the pitcher on the glass top table, let's say the glass top table broke. So this is how, we can get rid of ambiguity in our sentence. Then I shared with you one example that, let's say, Mary said to her sister that the fault was hers. Exactly the same way, hers is a word which can, relate itself to Mary and sister also. So this sentence is also not clear whose fault it was. Dear students, we have to use words, we have to use structures only for one purpose. The purpose behind is effective and meaningful communication. Therefore, use words which are concrete and powerful and active, and they convey, of course, one single idea, and use structures in such a way, revise your structures in such a way that, no chance at all for double speak or for double meanings or ambiguity. I have enlisted a few more examples to make my point very much clear, that what to do and what not to do, towards ambiguity. If you come back to the slide, you can see I have given you two versions, like example 3 I'm talking about. Let's go through it. The Minister of Agriculture requires eggs to be stamped with the date when they are laid by the farmer. Now, if you see this sentence, of course, it's quite funny. The Minister of Agriculture requires eggs to be stamped with the date when they're laid by the farmer. Now, in this sentence, we see it's not, of course, semantic ambiguity. It's more of syntactical ambiguity in the sense that we are saying with the date when they're laid by the farmer. I mean, sentence is telling us as if farmers, lay eggs, which is, of course, I mean, the placement of words, wrongly structured out. So what we are going to do is actually perhaps change the word places, restructure this sentence, and then, the meanings can be, very much the desired one. If you come back and see, the Minister of Agriculture requires eggs to be stamped by the farmers with the date when they're laid. When we say by the farmer was creating problem in our sentence. Laid by the farmer or stamp by the farmer. So what we did actually, there was syntactical, structural ambiguity, and we, put by the farmer at its right place in our sentence, got corrected. One more example I can share with you for ambiguity, that your typewriter needs to be repaired badly. Now, badly is one word. Perhaps it's wrongly placed. Structure is wrong. This is again syntactical ambiguity. You have to put the word badly where it actually, suits. So, restructuring the sentence, your typewriter badly needs to be repaired. So, badly is for the need, not for the repair. So, this is how structure is, out of this ambiguity. One more example. This morning, I shot an elephant in pajamas. In this sentence, who was wearing pajamas? I was wearing pajamas or elephant was wearing pajamas? Again, see, something is wrong with it. You have to, make it very, very clear. This is, if I ask you the question, is it semantic ambiguity or syntactical? Of course, your answer is right. This is syntactical ambiguity. Why? In pajamas is wrongly placed actually. And the sentence can be, this morning in my pajamas, I shot an elephant. Now next sentence, our mothers bore us. Our mothers bore us. Now, this is, our mother is subject, bore is verb, object is us. There is no any, syntactical ambiguity. Subject is at subject place, verb is at verb, object is, at object. Problem is with the semantics, actually, meanings. Our mother bore us means our mothers are very boring, or something else we are trying to say. Of course, we are trying to talk about that the birth, stuff. And the real version goes as, our mothers gave birth to us. Look at this. Another important point I should mention here, that, why sometimes we, become a victim of this ambiguity. It's just a game of what you call, perception, or you can say, assumption. Things which is clear, the way clear with me may not be clear with you. Same way with you. I mean, in my mind was, when our mothers bore us, in my mind it was clear that fine, I understand, and I want to say our mothers, gave, birth to us. When I put it into words and I offer it to my readers, a reader's mind may not work the way my mind was working, or the backup information, or you can say the background, which is with me may not be with the readers, right or not? Writer may have a background of that very fact and figure. Readers may not have that background of those facts and figures. So, right message will be, of course, the one which goes with the facts and figures plus background if needed. So then, of course, ambiguity, can also be removed. One last interesting sentence. Americans are willing to drop nuclear weapons. Now, in this sentence, there are two problems. Americans are willing to drop nuclear weapons. Here, American as a nation, or some group of Americans, or maybe the army of America, and it's not clear actually. Second thing, drop. Dropping means they are going to utilize nuclear weapons, or they are going to, leave their nuclear power, right? So, I mean to say, give up that nuclear power. So, this ambiguity, we have to remove from the sentence. We reconstruct the sentence with more semantic value, and the sentence goes, the American people are willing to utilize nuclear weapons. So this is how we can, remove ambiguity from our sentence. They say one way to remove ambiguity from your sentence, if you remember, we were studying an effective sentence also, try, if there are any modifiers in your sentence, try to put your modifiers very close to the words they're modifying. In most of the cases, ambiguity will be, of course, resolved. Let's move towards our next pitfall, that is redundancy. Now, what is redundancy? Redundancy means repetition of words. When one word is used twice, let's say in a sentence, or when, meanings are repetitive in your sentence. For example, if I say, he is often in a habit of going to the cinema. Now, if you see it very carefully, he is often in a habit. Now, often and habit. Habits, of course, are often, right? So, if you say he often goes to cinema, fine. This sentence will be fine. Or if you say he is in a habit of going to cinema, that's also fine. But when you put often and habit together, that becomes, a pitfall, which we say redundancy, that there is a repetition of ideas in your, sentence. So, we can also say redundancy means unnecessary words. So, remove the unnecessary word. If I say morning and AM together, again, it will be redundancy. If I say, restore and back. Restore and back will be again redundancy. So we have to use one word to convey, that meaning. Unnecessary words, can be shown the way out, of course. For your analysis, some examples. Like if you see the third sentence, John has been quite ill for a really long time. Quite ill and really long time. Now, quite and really, these two words, have to be taken out, and the sentence will be, John has been ill for a long time. Quite and really, this will be, redundancy. Going back, Susie is a good teacher who makes a significant impact on her students and faculty. Now, its better version can be, Susie is a talented teacher who makes an impact on her students and faculty. Significant. It was significant impact. So what we did actually, good, we intensified more as talented. When something is talented, then there's no need to use, an adjective. Second adjective as significant impact. Talented's impact, the word impact is more than enough. Why? Talented teacher is always have, significant impact. So there is no need to use, a double intensifier. Going back to the next example, Michael Jordan was the best basketball player ever. Jordan was slam dunk master. And its better version is, basketball star Michael Jordan was the best basketball player ever and slam dunk master. And one more example, John found the job to be easy, and Jen also thought it was simple. Mike completed the job without difficulty too. Now, here in this sentence, you see there are three actors, and they have the same feeling about the job. Whereas what we did actually, we used separate verbs. When action is same of the three actors, then what's the point of, trying different verb for three different actors? So the best thing would be, mention the three actors together as a compound subject and use one action. When action is similar, when action is same, actors are many, action is same. So compose a compound subject, put all the actors together and use one verb for them. No redundancy. For example, John, Jen, and Mike found the job to be very easy. So this is how, redundancy will be out from your sentence. Let's move ahead with the pitfalls. The next one, fifth important pitfall, is cliche. Now, what are cliche? Cliche means overused expressions, trite expressions, hackneyed expressions, stale expressions. What I said, it means such words which have been so much used by all of us that they have lost their impact, they have lost their impression, they have lost their effect. I repeat, words which have been overused by all of us. Because of overusing those words, what happened actually? They lost their impact. They are no more effective and meaningful. Please keep in mind, cliches give off feeling to your readers. If there are cliches in your writing, your whole expression becomes stale. Stale means not fresh. The crisp will be lost, and your expression will be totally, I would say, full of hackneyed and full of, trite and not fresh, vocabulary. And your reading will be, your reader especially, he will have some off, feeling. He'll have no interest in your, reading. So try not to use those cliches. In my last class, if you remember, I talked about, plain English campaign. And I, read out for you some, results of the surveys. Over there, we talked about, circumlocution and, people's opinion about. And one part of the survey was about cliche also. This survey, to refresh your memory, this survey was conducted in more than 70 countries, including subcontinent. And there were lots of questions, about plain English. Of course, plain English campaign, these are the people from UK, and they are trying to promote plain English, in offices, at home and everywhere, make your messages simpler for your readers so that, they could really understand. Purpose behind is communication, and communication is always effective when you use familiar words. And this is what actually, these plain English people are doing. They asked people, enlist most irritating and annoying cliches. And very interesting, findings were there. The most irritating, the award of the most irritating cliche was won by the expression which we use, at the end of the day. So, at the end of the day is the most irritating cliche according to people. The second most irritating and annoying cliche was, at this point of time. Third was, like. Fourth was with due respect. Now, these are 4 cliches which they said are, the most irritating, annoying one. Others, of course, I have put down onto your slide for your information, but please keep in mind, cliches are expressions which are very much overused because of this factor, because of this fact that they are overused. They have lost their effectiveness and meaningfulness. Therefore, don't use them. If you come back to the slide and see 3 sentences. The first one, Hercules was as strong as an ox. Okay, if you see this example, as strong as an ox. This is trite expression, overused expression. It has no good effect in this sentence. Second example, you can see, I have to give an arm and a leg to find a parking spot during the holiday season. To give an arm and a leg, to show that something was, costly. Arm and a leg. This is again overused, trite expression, and it does not do any good to your sentence. It has to be out. The third one is, there are loads of websites on the internet. What you're trying to say that there are many websites on the internet. Loads of. Now, loads of is, of course, one cliche, which, of course, should not be used. Last time also I used the word be savage again. Again, I'm saying be savage again towards cliches. Don't, give any place to such words which are overused, which are trite, which make your expressions, less crispy, less fresh. Don't use such. Of course, be very careful about. This is what actually style guides us, about what words are proper and what words should be used, what not. So cliche is something which should not be. So the remaining, as I was talking about, the plain English, campaign, and 4 topmost, most annoying, most irritating, cliches which I discussed with you. The remaining cliches, they are there on the slides. You can take a look, and you can also, note them down. Noting them down means that you are not going to use them, in your writing. If you see anyone, anywhere, just kick it out. Here you go. Now, on this slide, I have enlisted 30 cliches, which, people from 70 different countries, found out, named that these are such expressions which should not be in writing. They should not be in your expression. They should not be in your word choice. Writers' language choices should not, depend or should not have, any of these 30 words or expressions. Let's enjoy reading them. Like the first one, absolutely. Another cliche, address the issue. Awesome. Ballpark figure. Basically. Basis. Bear with me. Between a rock and a hard place. Blue sky thinking. Boggles the mind. Bottom line. Crack troops. Diamond geyser. Epicenter. Glass half or full. Now, please ask yourself, how many of these expressions are there in your vocabulary? I believe there will be many, especially the last one which I used, glass half full or empty. Everybody uses this. Everybody uses this and boggles the mind. And bear with me, between the rock, and a hard place, devil and the deep sea, awesome, ballpark. These are such words, which you, me, everybody. As far as spoken is concerned, we don't mind, cliches you can use, of course, in speaking. But in writing, no way, no place. Kick them out. And the remaining 15, going forward. I hear what you are saying in terms of, it's not rocket science. Literally, move the goalposts, ongoing, priorities, pushing the envelope, singing from the same hymn. And the fact of the matter is, thinking outside the box, to be honest, touch base, value added. Now, these are, such words which are trite, overused, hackneyed, stale, and they spoil the freshness of your writing, the crisp of your writing. Therefore, simply show them the way out. Kick them out. Don't use them. Now, let's move towards our next pitfall, that is euphemism. Now, what is euphemism? Euphemism means indirect. When you try to be indirect in your saying things, when you fear that you will sound blunt. To avoid bluntness in your language, adopt or you choose such words or expressions that you may not sound direct or insulting or blunt. Then your expressions become. Now, this euphemism, I'm not saying that this is totally bad or this is wrong. Socially, of course, we use euphemism. For example, when two words, sick and vomit. Now, vomit is a direct and little blunt, word. And an indirect version, or you can say euphemized or euphemistic version of the same indirect is sick. When you say, I feel like vomiting, and the same sentence can be euphemized as I'm feeling sick or I'm sick. Now, this is indirect. I mean, here, by using sick, what you did actually, you tried not to sound blunt. Exactly the same way when you use the word die and pass away. Die is a direct, little blunt, and pass away is more formal and it's little indirect and less, of course, or you can say not blunt. And then if you say your uncle, for example, is a puffed pipe, or he has lost all of his energy, blah blah blah, physically, you can take it this way, that your dad is your uncle is on slow feet, for example. So when we use the word slow feet, and the slow feet thing is actually less blunt, or this is more euphemized. So this is how we use euphemism. What's wrong about euphemism? You may say, well, this is the way language should be, that by using euphemized expressions, what happens that, or by using euphemism, what happens actually, you rather sound more polite and more courteous. I agree with you, but the unnecessary use or overuse of euphemism is bad. And this is what actually writers at times become overused in the euphemism, or unnecessarily they start using euphemism, or unnecessarily they become indirect. Why to choose indirect approach where direct is proper? So overused euphemism or unnecessary euphemism has to be avoided. On your screen I have enlisted some euphemisms and their meanings which are commonly used actually. You would see euphemism, the one on your screen I have enlisted. They are very difficult to understand by every reader. yes, sophisticated reader can understand what actually the writer is trying to convey, but a common reader who is actually our target, our point of concern, for him, maybe the euphemism thing to understand will be a difficult job. So if we take a look of some known euphemisms and their easy translations or interpretations, you'll enjoy that. Like the first one is correctional facility. Now, correctional facility, it's direct, easy to understand, meaning will be prison. Now, prison and correctional facility. Now, who will understand that the writer is actually mentioning prison if you write correctional facility? And see more, previously owned cars, used cars. Depopulate, its easy word is kill. Revenue enhancements, taxes. Now, taxes, I mean, at the place of taxes, if you find, in newspapers and magazines, revenue enhancements, for example, who will understand this? And employment terminated, fired. Non-passing grade is failing grade. Pre-need arrangements, burial arrangements. Laid to rest, buried. Pacification is the war. Negative feedback is scolding. Negative impact is hurt. So, euphemism to certain level is okay. Of course, by using this, you will be less blunt, you will be more polite, more courteous, but its overuse is very bad, it's unnecessary. Inclusion in your writing, in your word choice is very bad, I would say rather a sin, because principle is very simple. Be direct where indirect does not do. So be direct. Okay, now let's move towards our next stylistical pitfall, and that is grandiloquence. Grandiloquence means pompous writing. As I told you before, we can have four versions, of the same message. First, I said it was substandard, which is central, and if you go up substandard, it would be colloquial. Going up, it would be standard, and then pompous. It means using, in grandiloquence, actually we do not use Anglo-Saxon words, we are using Latin words. Latin words are, of course, bigger in size. They are like, they have more syllables actually, and they are, words are not very much familiar, average, reader, of course, will be in difficulty understanding, that very message. Therefore, pomposity, we sometimes call it, ceremonial, language also. Language meant for some special purposes, actually, where a common reader, is not the point of concern. To explain it and illustrate it further, I would like to show you one example. And of course, this example will be a sort of comparison between pompous writing and standard writing. You can take a look on the screen. In this message, I would like you to focus on two things. Number one, the word choice, and then the structure choice. And then its second version we'll see. Like the first one, the luxurious ambience of this exotic setting. Reading this sentence, look at the word choice, the luxurious ambience of this exotic setting. Look at the word choice, look at the adjective, stuff. Compare it, ask yourself what can be the simpler version of the same, the luxurious ambience and the exotic setting. Let's continue. Which we chanced upon. Look at this word, chanced upon. During our desultory peregrination south along the Amalfi coast, is found in the guests seem to be on a nuptial holiday, whether the 1st or the 25th. The place had a number of luminaries who were not at all condescending. Among the distinguished guests was a producer with his entourage who came in from the palatial yacht and dined at the hotel. If you see this version, which I read it for you, Words, they are very much ostentatious, very much colorful, very difficult to understand. They are not familiar, they are not even mono or bisyllabic. Most of them are more than even trisyllabic, words which we call as hard words. And when you use hard words, of course, the readability, becomes at stake. When we say readability, it means, a common reader will be in difficulty understanding what, you mean, by that message. Now, if I read for you the second version of the same pompous writing, you would be amazed, actually, that what, writer was trying to say through pompous entries. Let's take a look. All the guests seem to be on honeymoons, whether 1st, 2nd, or 25th. See, in this sentence, now let's see its, better version, which is, of course, not pompous, standard. When we are changing, our writing from pompous to standard, what we are doing actually, of course, two changes mainly we are bring about. The first one, we are going to change our words from, technically speaking, from Latin to Anglo-Saxon. In other words, words which are hard words, we're going to change them into, familiar words, easily, understandable by everybody. Second important thing, we'll be changing our structure, simplifying our structures. If sentences, which are, let's say, more than, let's say, 30 words, roughly speaking, then we'll, of course, split our sentences. If all the sentences are going to be of the same size, then, of course, we will bring variety in by introducing small, medium size, and big sentence at the same time. So, two areas are going to, gather our attention. Word choices to be familiar, sentence to be small in the length, so that we could easily understand. And same difference, you will find in these two versions, in pompous and in standard. Let's now read standard thing, and to have an idea that, how to bring ourselves, down from the pompous entries, the grandiloquence, down to standard one, which are all readers. Me and you both, we can understand our messages, very much easily. And of course, the objective behind is effective communication. And pompous writing or pompous words, at sometimes, they become, rather most of the time, they become wall between your writer and reader. So let's demolish this, stuff. On the slide, if you go, all the guests seem to be on honeymoons, whether 1st, 2nd, or 25th. In this sentence, you don't find any difficult word. The crowd, primarily Italian, British, German, and American, was sophisticated and decidedly unsnobbish. Do you find any difficult words so far? Of course not. Sentences are small, words are more familiar. And then there were even a few celebrities on view. Full stop. Such a small sentence. A famous producer, his wife, and friends stopped by for dinner, while the chartered yacht lay anchored in the harbor. Two well-known actors arrived the day we left. Another star was there, but for some reasons stayed in her room most of the time. Nobody asked for autographs, probably too busy having their own good time. I bet that if you, share these two pieces to an average reader, the first is going to totally confuse him. Even if you give it to an educated reader, he would say, what a nonsense, like such a message giving to, or, publishing for our, readers and expecting them that, they would give constructive feedback on. Of course not. Second one is a standard. That's a better choice, better structures, better words. Message, of course, goes, of course, across and effectively and, of course, meaningfully. Let's now move towards our next pitfall, which we are going to, of course, avoid. And that is excrescence. Excrescence, very simple thing. It means awkward and bankrupt words. If there is any word which is not conveying any idea in your sentence, that is bankrupt, that is, awkward, simply remove that. If I give you an example, we have received your order for 2 lawn mowers and will send same by rail. its better version is, we have received your order for 2 lawn movers and will send them by rail tomorrow. Now, in the previous version, the word same was bankrupt and awkward. It wasn't, conveying any, meanings. And in the second, version, you see, we use the word them. Now, them's antecedents were lawn movers. So we are going to send the lawn movers. In the previous one, same we used as a reference word, and which was referring to nothing actually in the sentence. And then we replace same by them, and them actually means, lawn movers. So such words which are awkward, which are bankrupt, they do not add meanings to our sentence, simply remove them. One more example. We are instituting many meaningful changes in the curriculum. Here, the word meaningful is bankrupt, and we are replacing this meaningful by significant ways. So this is how, excrescence can be, removed from our sentence. Next comes, inseparables. Inseparables are, such expressions which we always use in pair or in group. Like, for example, chop and change. Such expressions, should not be used in our writing. Rather, we should prefer one concrete word over inseparables. Why we call them inseparables? Perhaps because you cannot separate them. I mean, if the expression is chop and change has some specific meanings, but when you break them into two, for example, chop separate and change separate, and when you use the word chop, perhaps chop is not conveying or cannot convey what exactly you mean by or mean from chop and change. Therefore, try to avoid, inseparables. Now, one more, very functional understanding of this, that when, you are using chop and inseparables, and the next time, your writing then reaches a stage where, you revise or you proofread, and over there, readability, for example, becomes the question, and you are asked then, to, cut down the word limit, for example, make your expression more concise, then these inseparables will become blocks, actually, stumbling blocks in the way of conciseness. Conciseness means, less number of words, but you have used, let's say, some idiomatic expressions or some inseparables. Now, inseparable, you cannot break them into two. Yes, of course, you have to kick them out from your, sentences and would be required to use one concrete word. So why to use them? Some commonly used inseparables for your attention, like the one chop and change, hook and crook, betwixt and between, shape or form, ways and means, each and every. These are some inseparables which we should not use. This is just a small list. There are 100 and many. Avoid them. Now, we are moving towards the end points of style, and now comes another important pitfall, and that is slang. What are slangs? Slangs are short-lived words. They are short-lived. Why? Because they are words of a specialist group. I mean to say, when we say standard language, and we call it global language. Standard is always global. Why we call it global? Because it contains, standard language contains, familiar words which are, and standard words, of course, which are understood everywhere in every part of this world. Standard language is same in United States, it's same in England, it's same in, subcontinent, it's same in Australia, it's everywhere same. Whereas, this colloquial thing, for example, colloquial is less formal, less standard in not that much it's same everywhere, because some colloquials, of course, they change from region to region. But as far as slang is concerned, believe me, slang is totally different in different parts of the world. For example, British slangs, American slangs, Australian slangs, subcontinent slangs, they are totally different from each other. Even take the example of Australia and New Zealand. They are like, sister, countries in each other's neighborhood. But the slangs of New Zealand and the slangs of Australia are totally different from each other. Slangs with positive meanings in New Zealand may be very much negative and opposite meanings in Australia. Now, look at the scene. This is, so closely located countries. How about American slangs compared with British, and these two compared with subcontinent? Totally different. That is why we say slangs are short-lived. Colloquials are not as much short-lived as slangs. Standard is not short-lived, it's long-lived actually. So when slangs are different in different regions, so why putting your writing onto a risk? Why risking them? Why risking your your writing, your message? Don't use slangs. Just for your interest, just for your understanding, I would like to read one or two messages with loads of slangs and see, do you make any head or tail of this message? Like the first one: saw a pretty corny movie last night. Mary Major had a part in it. A tearjerker though. Now in this sentence there are some slangs. Pretty is a colloquial we understand. Pretty means very. Corny. Now corny is a slang. Do you know what is corny actually? Movie is okay, of course, a standard word. But what is corny? You don't understand. Now, corny means old. Mary Major had a part in it. Now, having a part in some movie is colloquial. We understand that, she had a role in it. Tear-jerker, though. Now, what is tear-jerker, actually? Maybe you don't understand what is tear-jerker. Why? Because it's a slang thing. Tear-jerker means, tragedy, tragic movie. So, why using slangs when not everybody, can understand? Another, interesting example. Somebody pinched my brolly when it was falling in bucket. Now, what happened? Do you understand this message? Somebody pinched my brolly. What actually happened? What is pinch? What is brolly? Now, pinch means, to steal, and brolly means umbrella. Somebody stole my umbrella when it was falling in buckets, when it was raining. When it was raining hard, or when it was raining cats and dogs, so somebody pinched. So in hard rain, somebody stole your umbrella. One more example: give us a fiver, here you are smashing tar. Now give us a fiver, fine. Fiver is of course a slang for something. Let's say 5 rupees or 5 pounds or $5. Here you are, it's colloquial, fine, we understand. Smashing. Now what is smashing? Or what is tar? Tar. Tar means thank you. So I mean to say, standard thing is global, understood everywhere. Colloquial, semi-level, maybe, maybe not. Slang, absolutely not. You cannot understand slangs of, different regions. That's why you find dictionaries of slangs. We call British slangs, American slangs, Australian slangs. Now, this is actually a guideline for the travelers. If I need to go to, let's say, England, for example, and I have to socialize over there, I need to have some guide, a book, which could contain possible, British slang, so that, when I socialize with people over there may not be any miscommunication. But in standard writing, there is no space for colloquialism and there is no space for slang. Let's now move towards our next pitfall. This is verbiage. Verbiage means using too many verbs. Principle actually is one action, one verb. If you want to express an activity, you want to describe something, narrate something, very simple thing. Rule is very simple. C, number of actions. Same way, C, number of verbs. Verbiage means when for one action, just to make you understand, verbiage means when you use one action, when you use, let's say, 2 verbs for one action. This is what actually too many verbs for just one single action. So verbiage is actually a burial place, of verbs. Like, if you remember, I said use verbs more, adjectives less. But it does not mean that you start overusing verbs. That would be a mistake. Just to show you some example, should the supply of stickers not be sufficient to meet section requirements, application should be made to this office for a supply of additional copies. Now, if you see this message very carefully, you would find many verbs unnecessarily used, overused, like should is one verb, be is second verb, to meet is third verb, should be made is another verb. And then there are such words in this sentence which can have verb forms also. For example, supply is a noun and it can have a verb form also as supply. Section is a word which can have its verb form. Application can have its verb form apply. So this is how in this example you see many verbs are there which are unnecessarily used. Now the same message we can convert into rather more compact and more direct actually by using one or two verbs. And the sentence goes, if you need more sticker, ask for them. You compare this, hell of a difference. In version A, useless, overuse of verbs. In version B, very, very intelligent, very, very careful use of verbs. Now, on your screen, you can see some examples of verbiage, like a few, a small number of can be a few, in respect to can be about, in connection with can be again about, are of the same opinion, agree, accounted for by the fact that, this is because, take into consideration is consider, during the course of is during, and it is generally believed is many think, and it has been reported by Smith, Smith reported, and many more. Dear students, in redundancy, we say don't let your words, repeat themselves for repetitive meanings. Exactly the same way in verbiage, we study that don't use too many verbs, where one verb can do. Now let's move towards our next pitfall. This is the last pitfall, which we call the suffix wise. Look how we construct words. Now you know that. You studied in word choices with the dictionary skills that a word has, prefix and suffix. Prefix means, starting, and suffix means, ending. Alphabet we add and we construct, our, words. So there is one wrongly used, suffix, that is wise, W-I-S-E. Just to take a look on a screen, like tax-wise, money-wise, price-wise, road-wise, business-wise, news-wise, discipline-wise, career-wise, weather-wise, salary-wise. Now this is the misuse of this suffix wise. Don't do that. This is another, pitfall which we need to avoid. Dear students, this is the end of our, style guidelines and pitfalls. We talked about in this lecture and the previous one how to choose words. What are the writer's word choices? And we said words have to be proper for proper places. And we said that, writers, they have something to say and they should say it clearly and concisely. And then the 12 pitfalls we studied, and some of them, were like, colloquialism, circumlocution, ambiguity, redundancy, grandiloquence, verbiage, slangs, and, many more. These are the points which we are going to, avoid, which we are not going to, take any help from for our writing. I hope you understood what style is and what are its pitfalls. And I believe now when you go into your writing, these 12 points, you keep in your mind that these are the 12 points which you are, going to not, use in your writing. And especially, when you revise and proofread, your writing, be very careful about, these points and make your, writing crisp, fresh, and very much, to the point to make it more effective and meaningful. Let's call it a day here. See you next time with a new topic. Bye-bye.